significantly increased restrictions of our synthetic biology through enhanced contaminant control measures. These points are with the surrounding benefits which means to weigh opportunity costs of plan versus plans. These points beyond good. First argument for the endorsement of progressive political forms of key to practice and it allows us to non-engaging stakeholders and spectators violence. Second argument that radical opposition failed and is co-opted. 8 points of Black Panthers were seen as the threat to states of the CIA systematically kills false leaders. These points that also Wall Street is treated like a terrorist organization by the FBI. They infiltrated Oxford, Cleveland, and set up a bunch of people, pretend like they're blowing up a bridge, and then put them all in jail. Third argument, control plan is good. Simulation of role through fiat for exploited empowerment. 8 points they call allows to flip beyond constraints and find solutions to problems of the real world. These points key to 8 with the democratic society. If we imagine how we would act as legislators, and that is key to us. Then advocating for things to those legislators. These points that solve political apathy and reinvigorate personal politics, which means we are able to solve back to things like thought and life. These points that role playing is key to government accountability and change. Our arguments by pretending to be an actor, we can force them to act in ways that are not morally abhorrent, which means that's key to identity correction. Next is the plan text. The United States government should significantly increase restrictions on synthetic biology by substantially enhancing contaminant control measures by mandating the use of suicide genes in cancer therapy. The United States federal government should increase the restrictions on synthetic biology by substantially enhancing contaminant control measures by mandating the use of suicide genes in cancer therapy. Solvency. The first argument is the suicide genes. According to the U.S. National Institute of Health, are genes that are embedded in microbes that cause them to self-terminate to apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed death, cell death. The second argument is that cancer suicide gene therapy uses precise delivery of therapeutic transgenes or genetic material into cancer cells only. This is addressed by discovering and targeting unique biomarkers displayed on cancer cells and cancer stem cells. 8 points there's mass precision in delivering the transgene is currently expressed at 99.9% according to the Phoenix Bio Molecular Engineering Foundation. These are points that transgene cells do prevent metastasis upon the death of tumor, which eliminates future tumor growth altogether. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Who enforces that?
Government. Obama has passed he has a committee on biosafety, which he's passed and been in power since 2010, and he's renewed it through 2014.
Advantage 1 is the cure for all cancers. A is the uniqueness of cancer rates are rising successful. First argument of National Cancer Institute predicts that more than 1,638,000 people are going to die, are going to be diagnosed with cancer in 2013. Second argument, more than 577,000 patients will die of cancer this year alone. Third argument is that patients are undergoing current systemic therapy will suffer multiple side effects, for instance, nausea or lack of fertility. Next argument is that this causes need for reduction of dose and chemotherapies and radiation below the most effective levels or withdrawal from a particular treatment altogether. These are one of the cancer therapy kills faster than actual cancer itself. First argument is the ultimate goal of therapy is complete elimination of all cancer cells while leaving the healthy cells unharmed. Second argument is radiation therapy uses high energy radiation to kill cancer cells by damaging their DNA. However, radiation affects exposed cells as well. All exposed cells, while this therapy relies on a higher sensitivity of rapidly proliferating cells, some of the healthy cells are, including reproductive, immunity, and hormonal system cells, are the most sensitive. Also, cancer-initiating system cells are shown to actually be resistant to radiation. These components of radiation chemotherapy statistics are abysmal. First argument is 75 to 88% of patients who receive chemotherapy die directly from it by heart failure, liver failure, or complications not from the cancer itself. Second argument, chemotherapy does not eliminate breast, colon, or lung cancers. This fact has been documented for over a decade. However, doctors still use chemotherapy for these tumors massively. The third argument is that 70% of U.S. women diagnosed with ovarian cancer will die this year. Women who receive radiation therapy are likely to die faster with chemotherapy than without it. Solvency is the first argument of the plan. Enhances sustainable control on synthetic biology by mandating the use of suicide genes for cancer therapy to be the result. The question of problematic therapy right now. So the second argument is that suicide genes are an automated way of controlling the scope of therapy on cancer tumors. Once cancer cells carry the transgenes, they self-destruct, leaving the normal cells on high harm. It is the ultimate cure because it does not harm anything but the cancer cells themselves. Third argument is that all the therapies such as chemotherapy and radiation become obsolete because they are not allowed to happen additionally. Fourth argument, there is virtually no risk of death or injury with cancer suicide. Gene therapy says fifth argument is key to quality of life, and we have durable solvency. After the treatment, there is no risk of future tumor growth, which means that recovery is expected to be 100% of the time. Sixth argument eradicates bad medical practices. Chemotherapy is extraordinarily deadly. And the second argument is that is key to responsible synthetic biology innovations promotes capital flows. Synthetic biology and possible cures for other diseases activate cancer is a horrible way to die. Ace the point of cancer cells or tumors grow big enough to interfere with normal organ function. A tumor could literally squeeze the heart to death. Beats the point of the tumors grow up usually good cells with the protein. So you literally just waste away. The third argument is cancer patients are stigmatized by the community death because of beliefs in this form of dehumanization. Beats the point is the biggest vote. This is the biggest most probable impact in favor. Up to 577,000 people will die this year of cancer, which means that our impacts are probably the biggest and the most probable. You should vote. We probably have an ethical obligation to these individuals, not allow them to just die in a world where we actually have something that can cure them, which means you should vote out.
All right. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 off. 8. That includes solvency page. Solvency. I just like float it straight down. Yeah. Yeah.
So you need one more piece of paper.
Yeah, it doesn't include a framework.
Okay.
It does include like solvency and advantage.
Sure.
Okay. I don't have one.
Just in case. You never know. It's gonna go wild.
Everyone ready? Well, that's
First off, the specification, someone has our information, you have must apply the age of implementation of the plan text, someone sees the violation, they don't, and someone sees the standards first, is limit the NIH, EPA, USDA, and the FDA all enforce different mechanisms, have different mechanisms of enforcement in order to implement things related to biosafety and genetic engineering, which means that this is key to having anyone in the affirmative that they have to specify. The second is key to ground as well, because the negatives have the ability to generate often off the specific ways in which they're implementing the plan. Otherwise, the affirmative just gets to assume that they get to fiat solvency. 3 is also key to solvency, because 90% of policy is implementation. 4 is the voting interest. First of all, this is an operatory voting issue. It's a gateway issue. 2, questions do not check abuse, because clearly we asking a question did not resolve these issues. Yeah, I know you hate but you're my words anyway. Next is the CDC trade-off. This S1A is the uniqueness of CDA's increasing funding that's go to Guatemala specifically by $1.8 million. This projected increase is going to like they already had this in the works to increase this funding by $1.8 million in the status quo. It's going to be the new plan uses the CDC. This means that this funding would fundamentally trade off. The second link is that they would then take the legal funding away from the CDC by implementing it through other agencies as well. C is the impact the CDC is key to combating HIV and another sexually transmitted diseases. This funding is isolated by the Guatemalan government as the best mechanism that they have in order to attain any funding to combat these diseases. Is key to specifically value alignment controls, another internal link to the things that they argue as an ethical obligation. So you get the bottom of the next one.
Okay.
Next is politics. One is the continuing resolution to avert the government shutdown is going to pass in the Senate. The first, that 63 vote to end the debate on the bill indicates that it will pass in the Senate. And the second is that whether it's bipartisan. Part third is Reed is expected to, says that he expected to pass the vote will occur today, according to Politico. And before the House Appropriations Committee leadership is prepared to take the modified Senate continuing resolution directly to the House floor, possibly as early as Thursday. And the fifth argument, the House Appropriations Committee worked with the Senate Chairman Barbara Vilkowski, said that we are coming very, that we've come very far on this bill. One of these links we plan diverts the continuing resolution first is focused. So Boehner has literally set a 50-hour clock on sequestration. This means that normal means argument that they identify in their framework is the reason why they would disrupt this vote and divert the continuing resolution so that it doesn't pass and isn't able to be voted on. Second is the plan collapses bipartisan. The third argument is the plan also causes the GOP backlash. Fourth is that guys like Blackburn, specifically, who was a senator, Republican, said that regulation hurt businesses specifically because we burn on businesses. These plans fundamentally are a regulation because it is a restriction. That means that they can barely, these businesses can barely meet their bottom line now. That means that the plan increases this. That would cause the Republican backlash. The Republicans don't think restrictions are necessary. The House Energy and Commerce Committee, most of the Republicans said that the technology presents no danger or ethical issues. It proves that they're going to backlash, and also the reason why they don't solve cases because there's nothing to solve. And it means that there's no impact case. Someone sees the internal links. One, the economy is at a crossroads now. The jobs are growing cuts via sequestration would threaten the economic recovery. The second is that cuts would lead to a 750,000 job loss and cuts in growth, according to Reuters in March 5th. And the third is that empirically premature austerity programs in 1937 caused the Great Recession that then led to the United States introduction into World War II. The fourth argument is that cybersecurity will also be cut. 25% of the NSA cybersecurity command budget is in danger in the status quo because of sequestration. The fifth is that House Republicans are proposing this week to restore upwards of $7 billion to operation and maintenance accounts for the four military services hit hardest by the automatic cuts that went into effect. This is the internal link as to how the CR actually solves these issues, and that bottom line is driving a hybrid spending bill to be unveiled Monday to replace the stopgap CR due to expire March 27th, since our time frame is like 6 days. Next is the impact. First, economic collapse leads to nationalism and extremism throughout the world. That leads to military interventionism and wars in a world where the United States and economic collapse gives less legitimacy to extremist groups and allows for these people to rise to power. This increases the propensity for them to lash out. The second scenario, this is called wars and wars like escalate and kill a lot of people. Probably acts as the same moral obligation argument that they're isolating like 8 seconds. This also causes resource wars because in a world where economic collapse, that means the resources are even more finite, which means people are more willing to use weapons as a first strike capability because they are already assured to be destroyed. That means that they would then use nuclear weapons in order to wipe out their opponents, in order to then use their in order to reap their resources. That escalates and causes extinction. The third argument is that military budget is key to forward deployment and hegemony that prevents conflicts and hotspots from escalating. It's also key to next is it also turns first of all that solves any escalation scenarios that they might place on these. And the fourth argument is that it also turns case because forward deployment allows the United States to enter into other places in order to allocate these cancer diseases, which means without hegemony, case does nothing to solve them. Also, medical care in the world with the economy collapse. Next, business confidence. This way is the unique business confidence high in the status quo. One is an all-time high according to New Jersey study. The second is that unemployment is at 7.7%, which is a substantial decrease in the last 2 months. And the third is that Federal Reserve is dumping $40 billion into markets, which is increasing production. The fourth argument is the stock market hasn't been better since 1996. Proof that the business confidence is definitely high in the status quo. So one beats the link that first of all, the you can cross the Representative Blackburn analysis indicates that the regulations would hurt the economy and the restrictions on specifically the medical environment would hurt the medical industry. The second is the claim increases restrictions. The third link is the claim forces compromises companies to start to increase staffing in order to comply with the plan's regulations. The fourth is that perceptually the plan looks like a regulation because they're still tied to what the resolution says, i.e. they have to increase restrictions. The C is the internal link. Business confidence is first of all teaching consumer confidence and investor confidence because the businesses aren't producing money or profit, and that means that the investors don't invest, and it also means that they don't hire people. This you can cross by the analysis from the previous flow as to how this causes economic collapse. Next is the counterplan, dispositional. So when A is the text, the United States federal government should ban chemotherapy. One, it solves the entirety of the case. So one B is competition. First of all, it obviously avoids the policy effect if no one cares about chemotherapy. Second of all, it avoids the business confidence effect, or it can be through net benefits because it avoids the case trends of the record. One is solving the entire case. All their internal links are predicated off of the use of chemotherapy in order to try to solve cancer. They isolate specifically chemotherapy as the only internal link that is bad. They say chemotherapy is even worse than cancer. They don't give you any other cancer treatments that are worse, which means that all these arguments would be new. We get new responses in the block. You should protect us there, and that those arguments are defended the PMC. And next is the you can go on to the advantage one now. First argument is transgenic genes and Terminator genes are absolutely terrible. First is Monsanto has stated that they are 20% more likely to leak genes into the leak these transgenic genes into the wild whenever they that's the reason why they placed a ban in 1999 in order to prevent them from stopping themselves from implementing the use of Terminator genes. The three currently claims trades off with Susan G. Komen funding, which is the reason why that's bad because the Susan G. Komen is developing other mechanisms to solve cancer, and that the argument is that there's a risk that any risk of the case as a reason why this specific mechanism to try to solve cancer is bad means that you prefer the counterclaim over this, and next is you also don't solve cancer because these things would basically just kill people. Their articulation literally does not have a reason why they would be able to avoid the issue of just like killing the person because they are suicide genes. They just kill everything. They give no solvency analysis as to how they only kill the cancer cells. Move down to the impact calculus. Talk about the ethical obligation. First is we access this. Second of all, ethical obligations are infinitely regressive. There's no way in which we can evaluate how they just function in a net benefit paradigm.
Cool. Advantage 1. Oh, sorry. Spec. Advantage 1. Politics. CDC. BizCon. Counterplan. Yeah. I think that's everything, right? Alright, counterplan before politics.
One more time.
Yes. Spec. Advantage 1. Counterplan. Politics. CDC. BizCon. POI is one of the time starts off, please. Alright. Ready? Everyone good? My first answer to Blue Series Silver called Fuck You to Specs because we give you a POI, we give you a specific funding mechanism, which is Obama's executive order for the committee that oversight or biosafety, which means we have the funding mechanism, which means this probably doesn't trade off with you. The next answer is that we do not spike committee answers, counter interpretation, that we need respect to the resolution. We need this one because we do exactly the resolution. After the next one is that your limits are bad in the fact that you'd be over limiting, which means that you over-specification of every function is infinitely regrettable. This is bad for that purpose. Then we'd be able to think the spike out of all your links. You notice we have a couple of new specifications, spike out all your links, which you have zero dissection, which would probably screw you over really badly. The next answer is that this would kill the ability to look at advantage and disadvantage because we have to have 7-minute plan text with bills for like 800 pages. They're get there to be their next answer is counter interpretation it's reasonability. No voters here. Like, don't look at this piece of paper. Like, we're not doing anything. Probably should listen to your own POI. Next, it's going to be. Advantage 1. My first answer is fucking malarkey due to the fact that Terminator genes is Terminator seeds. We're not going to put a seed into a human being after that to eat an apple. We're using Terminator genes, which you put into the cellular level, which means that this kills the cell. The next answer is that our plan does not kill everything. You probably should listen to our solvency, which means we put these in specific cells and they kill the cells. Also, probably shouldn't drop the fact that it's 99.9% effective. Probably shouldn't drop these warrants, which means that this doesn't mean anything. Malarkey. The next answer is that there is no link because it's not going to kill people due to the fact that they're just not going to kill a whole person. Probably even if it was like a little bit of a link to this argument, probably beating the fact that chemotherapy has a way higher percentage. It's almost 85% of chemo kills people. Next, on to your counterplay. My first answer.
It's straight off the gene code, man. There's no.
Yeah, they say chair for the gene code. My answer is no. It just allows them to keep doing more research and probably more on biosafety, probably more than seizing like suicide genes or other forms of illnesses. Probably just means that they research better shit, which means we don't trap. Next on the counterplay. My first answer is, first, you don't solve. If you only be on chemotherapy, there's no reason why they would use suicide drugs. They probably go to holistic medicine, which probably means they would just die anyways or smoke a lot of weed. I know some judges might like smoking weed because it's a vape weed, but isn't a cure for cancer. The next answer is that perms do both. There's no reason why you can't allow for suicide genes only and say ban chemotherapy. Next answer is perm in the plan due to the fact that the plan mandates suicide genes only. That is probably devastating to your guys' counterplan because that means you can't use anything but suicide genes through our plan text, which means that you don't get to use. Next answer is that this probably shows into politics due to the fact that you as the United States federal government can ban chemotherapy. It's probably just as bad as the medicine industry. It's probably the reason why we wouldn't shield the links by doing the perm or just by doing the plan. Next answer is that you are not competitive whatsoever, which means we get the perm.
This would freak out.
There's also freak out, but this is more because you ban chemotherapy. There's nothing in the middle, which means that this would destroy the medical industry. It's probably one of the biggest suppliers. It also means that people can't work because you can't go back to work without a medical industry. It means medical industry collapses. Probably turns all the BizCon answers. Next answer to politics. My first answer is you don't know shit about synthetic biology because first of all, there's everyone is for a bunch of answers for it. First, part of Oxford Finance with Feinstein both synthetic biology. Also, Santorum, who's the most conservative person on the planet, is down for synthetic biology due to the fact that it's good for different forms of treatment. Also helps the medical industry, which also decreases taxes on medicine, and also for hospital business, which helps the healthcare industry, which he's down for. The next is Senator Bernie Sanders, also a Republican, is also the biotech industry committee states that they have full support in the Senate, also for synthetic biology and policy action, also in Congress, also the American Association for Advanced Science Biology states that they also have sufficient Republican support in the House and the Senate for synthetic biology-related tech and commerce. The next answer is, first of all, next thing on topic isn't much politics, immigration policy on the which policy is on top of the document is immigration policy starts on February 22nd. They have till the 27th to review a bunch of politics. The next answer is that they'll always pass the stopgap anyways. They can push another 3-4 months to stopgap. Probably turns your industry. Probably means if we get solvency, just to rally support, which would only increase Republican support to microprice things in the future because synthetic biology is good for both sides. It has bipartisan support now. Means that winners win. The next answer is that the government is all down for self-preservation. They want to get paid. If they don't get get paid, they're pissed, which means they're always repaid budget anyway, so they can keep getting paid. The next answer is that you never say who's going to flip up or where it's going to go, which means that there's going to be distribution on the voting machines. They'll always keep going. The next answer is that it's going to be turn. First, turn, this means winners win, which means that this will only increase the propensity to pass budget politics. The next answer is going to be turn, we help solve the healthcare industry, which means that we stop frivolous lawsuits, which Republicans want, which means that they'd be able to vote on things like budget politics. This only helps the budget. The next answer is turn, we actually are able to increase the amount of cancer research, be able to export that to other countries. It only helps the economy, which looks like this will be good for Republicans. They're always down for the economy. You all know they're about the dollars. Yeah.
That's actually totally fine. Move on.
Cool. Next, CDC. Yes, one question. Go.
Yeah, did you say there's a voting issue on the dissent? I wasn't sure.
We're saying that they're down for self-preservation. They want their paycheck. Next. CDC, my first answer is malarkey due to the fact that the CDC budget is completely different than cancer research, but the biosafety and biotechnology budget, because we've seen this through Obama's subcommittee, which is in charge of the next answer is that our plan has very little funding. The fact that we take cancer treatment on the case, which you drop is extremely expensive, which means that this overwhelms the healthcare industry. Probably worse. The next answer is that not unique to the fact that the budget is yearly, which means the CDC already has their budget in place until 2014, as well as biosafety and cancer research, which means that these budgets wouldn't even happen. So even if you are buying the CDC, it doesn't happen for an entire year, which means that we don't have a year of solvency to only help the healthcare industry. Our next answer is link turn. We solve the healthcare industry, which is better, which means that this is better technology goes into it. The next answer is link turn. They talk about Guatemala. Why would we give Guatemala bad technology? This so we can use this connection through the CDC to give them suicide genes in order to save cancer patients within Guatemala. Probably saves more lives. Also, the next answer is link turn. You increase the amount of chemotherapy and other bad treatments that just kill people that don't actually save them. When you probably dropped on case that 77% of people die from chemo and radiation. Probably really bad turns off your impacts. All you do is kill relations. Next is link turn. You have all medical relations due to the fact that when we have a better technology that we use in-house, we don't export it, which probably means that you just allow for Guatemala to think that we're just trying to give them shitty technology they never use. It probably means that we don't link to this. Next answer is that,
Just be more explicit that we don't link because it is Obama's.
Next, we don't link this. It's Obama's subcommittee, which means it has a different funding source, which means that we have no link to it. There's no way that they trade off. They don't even specify where it comes from. Yeah, they asked for us to specify. This is their fault. Probably the reason why. Which means that this is what they probably should listen to when they ask for information. Next, Bitcoin. First, it's not unique to the fact that the only reason the stock market is at an all-time high is because buying yields are extremely low, which means that more people are just putting money in the stock market. It's just rich. It's just the 1% making noise. The next answer is that unemployment isn't going down. It's been stagnant in the high 7%, which means that it's not at the average it should be. It's just 6%. It means that the economy is not doing well. It just means the 1% is getting richer through the stock market. The next answer is that manufacturing is down 1.3%, and this is a key indicator. The manufacturers, they have to buy materials in order to buy what they think they can sell, which means that this is going down. This shows that investor confidence as well as consumer confidence is down, which means that this is not easy. The next answer is GDP only went up 0.3% due to the fact of natural gas productions, and Obama has already said it's not going to be doing as much fracking, which means that the economy is actually on a downward trend right now. So it looks good now without fracking. Our GDP is going down, which means that our economy is not healthier right now. My next answer is link turn. We stop frivolous losses, which you dropped on cases, which means that we only increase the propensity to help the economy because these frivolous losses kill the medical practice. Also makes us increase the amount of funding that is necessary for the Obama Affordable Health Care Act. The next answer is link turn due to the fact that we stop people dying from cancer. This makes people not be able to go to work. We actually have more people productive that can go into the workplace, which means that we only increase the amount of the workforce, which only helps people get jobs, only helps people be productive, which means that we help the economy better. Next answer.
The plan solves, which means that Bitcoin goes way up.
Plan solves means that Bitcoin goes way up because we have technology that's better, which means that people will always see this as the way to go. Also, link turn, we increase stability of the cancer research and also cancer treatment, which means it only helps the economy.
The order will be the stack argument, then the counter plan, then the politics with that, the CDC trade-off with that, and advantage. I'm sorry, then the Bitcoin did that.
Yeah, I have a lot of favorites.
A-spec, counterplan, politics, CDC, Bitcoin, advantage.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. And, oh, I'm sorry, can you put solvency right after the counterplan? I don't know where you have, like, was that pulling the advantage or what?
government puts back argument first, concede this down to voting issues, no reason to look here, but first also concede the first we meet argument he makes. He says that after back argument, Obama actually approves this. He says that this is the way that we get access for ideas. It's probably risk of a policy click. I'll get to the later counter plan to go here first, concede the permutation to the plan, second permutation, and says the mandate suicide genes only mean they do the plan. Additionally, picking the counter plan permutation proves it's not competitive. Means this means you get to kick us out of the association. They don't make any voting issues on this. Why we don't get anything doing the PR environment. Also, the
permutation does clarify that they then exclude all other cancer treatments.
Yeah. Additionally, the permutation does clarify that they then exclude all of the cancer treatment means we get the link to our politics as well as the link to the other. Additionally, concede the link to additionally causes the business breakout more because they're regulating the medical industry means the reason the permutation is essentially the same thing as the counter plan. The plan is the same means that's a reason we get the link to the section of the solvency plan first extend the second arm Phil makes sure on the trade-off as to why they do trade-off with the Coleman Center means I'm essentially going for status. Well, counter plan here means there's other regulatory, there's other agencies that are developing ways to cure cancer. Means they just said they don't allow better research. I'm not sure he tries to make some sort of offensive argument here. Doesn't make sense. Means kind of development now willing the plan changes whether or not those terminator genes are instilled in cancer cells. Means this cancer cells can be developed, and inevitably it's only a matter of whether or not the government's developing that. Means they get a very low threshold to access to any of their impacts. Additionally, the issue of the case about massive obligation to the framing he makes this on CT on the trade-off on CTC trade-off is that means we get to access as well. Additionally, he prioritize body count. He says he proves the infant regression argument. There's no way to evaluate what that means. He just says that they save more lives. It's probably an implicit
What? It's in gene leakage, just because it's in a body, like if it's in a body, it probably increases the potency for disease.
Oh, okay. And extend the gene linkage argument. He says the terminator seeds aren't the same thing. We're not putting them in implants. You don't have the same type of genes that just prevent the things from reproducing. Means you're able to get out of gas. We're not putting apples and seeds into people. It's essentially the same kind of technology. So that means that there's still a risk of a gene linkage. There's some risk that these people will die. There's some risk that these people die. What doesn't have an extra of the politics is that first he says turn the first he says that the I guess it's turn down. He's starting. He says the Feinstein stands for like doesn't matter argument. He fundamentally does not understand the uniqueness and link direction of this first argument. Even if this is support from a Feinstein, the Democrat then term is not both conservative Republican anyway. Additionally, he can see the arguments we make about why they're out to keep Republicans feel like Blackburn. He says he hates regulations, despite that. Additionally, he can see the focus link that says Banner said a 50-hour talk on this. They can see that this link argument, even if they get a risk of all their link terms, despite the plan properly, means they can see that they immediately disrupt the normal means argument. The only other way he can take this out is with the argument he says about it's on the top of the docket. I'll get to that later on the phone. Next, turn the standards like it. He crossed by my analysis about this essentially the same link. Next, the American Association for Scientific Deployment says it's sufficient to get it to it doesn't matter even if there's sufficient support for it to get through our argument. Our argument is first we have first for our analysis that the fifth link the fifth link argument the public health standards. There's no reason why there is any reason to oppose it because they don't think the type of technology prevents any technical, medical, or ethical obligations to regulate it. There's a reason why there's no reason to pass it. I mean they'd have to expend some of their time. Additionally, even if that's true, even if there is support for it, people like this in general, it still disrupts the bipartisan atmosphere that's right now trying to work on passing a continuing resolution to pass next to the top of the docket for CIR first. Now true, they're not introducing it until May 27th. Additionally, he says like February 27th. I'm not sure what's he says they can always pass it later. That's not true. Our argument is we have a 6-day time frame. The House Republicans said that they have to be able to reinstill the federal funding for the military budget. Says that has more specific time frame sooner than it's going to be introduced. Your question?
Yeah, what was your argument like Rico about how what was it?
Your answer to the biotech community, you just say Republicans don't take the fact that
yeah, the Republicans don't think there's any need to regulate it because they don't think it's dangerous. It proves why yes, they might support the study of biology, but they don't support regulation.
All it wants us to why these plaintiffs by far are reasons why these Republicans like the biotech industry. They regulate that.
Yeah, additionally, any reasons why it's popular is the reason why they like the biotech industry. The plan would regulate that, which is something they would just like because if they like something and maybe they don't want the government to encroach on it. Next, they said the and it's nice to say plan turn to solve values. They say it's in biology good. I'm not sure they try to conflate to the biodepartment which the links are first. Not true because you can pass it through doesn't mean the Republicans are rally rather they don't like the plan. Just a question of whether or not it's popular or not initially, to whether or not it disrupts the focus link, which is the first link which they have conceded. They don't get to make any arguments about that. There's a focus link they conceded. Boehner set a time frame. He needs to be able to pass that. Additionally, that's the same thing as Winter on later. They say self-preservation is not going to flip off against the arguments that they wouldn't flip off against it. It just means the nature of the plan is the Republicans will press against it, but it's only an issue of whether or not it would pass through common sense with the act of FBI decisions. Doesn't make sense. Yes, of course they react against themselves because they can change their mind later. Additionally, if you haven't noticed, Republicans aren't always entirely consistent on things. fact, it sits there and when that's empirically disproven. If winners do when Obama overcame the opposition for the Affordable Care Act, that should have been the largest win for him in the history of presidential, in his presidency. That means they should have been able to pass it. They said, well, time frames are reversed because they were going to be able to develop. Even if they wouldn't, he can pass legislation later. He doesn't regenerate capital right away. He needs to be able to regenerate it over time. He needs to know when he can create the bipartisan atmosphere. He was essential. The second argument is it's not a bipartisan, it's not a political capital link, it's a bipartisanship link. This link turn goes away. Next, he says it helps the health. He says it helps the healthcare industry. That's
true by the concession on the policy.
That's not true by the concession on the counterclaim that they regulate the entirety of it, and Republicans don't view it that way because they're not actually helping it. They're just regulating it more. It's going to develop by itself inevitably. 9 is he says it helps the economy first. For a person who doesn't actually help the economy, don't warn us why that is true. It's just that they just assert that they help the healthcare industry. They're not increasing any overarching way to reform the healthcare industry. Additionally, there's no warrant to this, right?
No.
Yeah, there's not a warrant to why they help the economy. He just asserts that. Additionally, Republicans still hate it on faith, and they don't think it will help the economy. They think it will hurt the economy. Republicans think it's not always indicative of reality. That means that they don't get access to the question. Except you,
So if that's true, doesn't that kind of non-unique your diss that? How can you make any sort of predictions of how Republicans are going to vote?
I'm making predictions of reality. I think I'm making those. Republicans are ideologically opposed to that differently. Next, they can see the distrust case because of the collapse of the economy. If I get a risk of this on the other dude's tab, it means there's literally no world in which they are able to access medical care. Additionally, they have, that's fine, because that turns the case on its own. Additionally, they can see the external impact means that there's no budget pass to restore the military's budget. If it collapses, that means they don't solve those wars. It's still millions of people, which is uniquely worse. That outweighs that impact in terms of banking.
They say they increase the export of medical.
Also, they say that they increase export. That is another instance of the link in which they decrease the amount of medical things that are going to, they decrease the amount of medical technology and commerce is going to exist. Increase the amount of public that came next to the CTC trade off this. First of all, can see this is malarkey, that the budget is different, means there's no way they can increase this. There's no way, the budget, additionally, they can see the budget already set for the next one until 2014. Additionally, what?
Their specification only.
Also, the specification only because Obama doesn't mean it's not trading off the bid on this ad.
Well, question, do you guys think that's under-spec? Now you're saying we're linking to over-specing?
No. First he says that first the 98% stock market type because of bonds. Yes, that's true. That's why there are people investing. There are arguments that there are business conferences which are large business owners. They are investing is because there's an opportunity to make money, which is why the stock market is high now. Next he says there's not a need because of unemployment, so the economy's not doing well. First, that's not true. The only reason the unemployment rate isn't decreasing because more people are trying to buy jobs and they're reporting unemployment benefits. Third, just manufacturing down. That's only an issue whether or not there's a demand for it. Arguments if you increase, that business confidence is on an all-time high. That means that consumer confidence is on the upswing now. Additionally, he says not need the GDP. The GDP's down from fracking. Argument is that they argue that that's the GDP might be down. It's not an issue of whether or not the economy's doing well. It's how people are confident about the economy. Next is the link when they solve for frivolous lawsuits. I'm not sure what the more to this is, but that doesn't have an overall link on business and consumer confidence. It's about whether or not they're going out and buying goods. Next says they
go ahead and say.
Yeah, and extend the Representative Blackburn analysis why this investors would hate this, even if they increase money now. It's about the perception of it. I mean, they don't answer the several arguments.
Yeah. Okay. The order is going to be case. Overview on top. Case, politics, citizen confidence on bottom. Case, politics, and confidence. And on case, I just have solvency and advance on the sheet. So. Okay, everyone good? Overview on top.
Easy balls, Loyola at the end of the day, where they are conceding a terminal no solvency argument on case, and the reason why they would actually trade off for funding for other cancer treatments, the reason why they don't actually solve the root cause of cancer, and the successful, i.e. that we are using chemotherapy in order to treat it, and they are having major concessions with the counterpoint debate that indicate that they are they have a huge internal, not only business conference, but pissing off the Republicans because they literally regulate the entire pharmaceutical and medicine industry, whereas they only allow their specific mechanism of cancer treatment to thrive. Our argument is that this would outweigh case and access all the impact calculation they have embedded in the 180. Move on to the example. Or the argument I want to extend here is that terminator seeds probably have convinced you to kill the people in the terminator Terminator genes have the propensity to kill these people anyway. It's in the analysis my partner makes that these genes would still have the propensity to leak into other parts of the human body because they are inside the human body. Like, there's no way in which you can just make sure that they would be encapsulated in these cancer cells. It's ridiculous. There's no warrant to give you this. They just simply assert that because they are seeds, that that's a fundamentally different thing. These same technologies being applied, they are called Terminator genes, which is the reason why you get, this analysis should be applied, and that means there's a risk that this would kill them, and that's response to the 99% effectiveness argument as well, because they are maybe very effective at killing cancer, but that doesn't challenge the question of whether or not it also kills the person. And also, I want the last solvency argument that
Point of order, my bad, one time. Yeah, their explication of our warrant is completely new. We say it's 99% effective to treat cancer. Like, this is the explanation trying to say that it, like, trades off of something else.
Yeah, my analysis is a explanation as to how that argument still functions. Like, your argument is that it solves cancer, not that it saves a person's life.
That is also new.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, just because you say it's cancer does not mean the person never dies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a silly argument anyway. I don't really care. It doesn't really,
Protect yourself all the time.
No, I got it. Yeah, that's fine. Moving on to, actually, at the bottom of the, it said the ethical obligation arguments are, have the internal link to the ethical obligations is the issue that massive amounts of people are dying as well, where we are winning in extinction scenarios, while in politics is that that's the reason why we access this as well. Also, any risk that this isn't true, whether their plan functionally link terms itself means that, like, there's no ethical obligation, so there's no way to evaluate this. They drop the argument that you can't evaluate how an ethical obligation functions and that's benefits parents. Moving on to politics. Extended uniqueness. Look, the only argument we need here is that right now there's a continuing resolution that is happening. They are not responding to specific warrants that we have, specifically that the CR is going to avert the government shutdown, and that it's going to pass by first of all, that the government shutdown will happen on March 27th, and second of all, that this is being considered in the Senate right now, today, and it will be passed through the House by Thursday. This is the reason why, first of all, it's indicating the bipartisan time is status quo, and also the warrants that the House Appropriations Committee leadership is prepared to take the modified Senate bill directly to the House floor, indicating that they are very confident in this thing, the status quo. None of their arguments interrogate this question, which means that we control the direction of uniqueness, and all of their arguments as well are functionally attempts at a link term, but none of them make any sense. Look, their warrants are the indication that the people in Congress like the biomedical industry. That is a reason why their regulation of it would be a reason why it trips the politics to that. Their Feinstein evidence and the evidence about the specific lobbies of the biomedical industry are reasons why they would hate the plan, because their concession on the policy on the counterplan specifically indicates that they are regulating the shit out of the biomedical industry. That's the reason why that would obviously trigger the politics did that, because it would obviously anger the Republicans. And their argument about winners, when you extend my partner's analysis, I think does a pretty good job here. I'm going to go down to the impact level. I feel like you should be the full weight of everything that's in the MO, because I don't really understand what the point of the LOR is. But the only arguments I want here are on the impact level. First of all, on the internal link, like extend, first of all, that this causes an economic collapse. They don't challenge any of these warrants. They're just trying to go for a really bad link turn here, and extend that this causes the collapse of the economy and in a world of economic collapse, and increases propensity for resource wars and people who lash out against other nations. This then escalates to nuclear war and calls for extinction. That means that we outweigh on case, first of all, on time frame, because ours is to March 27th, whereas they don't even specify a time frame. Or theirs is like way in the future as to when like people will die of cancer. That means that you prefer ours and specificity and time frame. Second of all, it's more probable because we are winning the question because of like the direction of the link as well, whereas there's a question of whether or not this technology would even solve.
Okay, the order is advantage. Let's see, one advantage. It's the advantage, followed by the counterclaim briefly, followed by BizCon.
You lied to me, Shiloh. Is there an overview on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, is that like effectively flow it? I just wondered, like, I would just say flow that on advantage one.
Let's stay organized.
Okay.
Yeah, round it out.
They kick the counter plan. They have no propensity to solve for the 577,000 people are going to die in the status quo. They have no way to solve that except for this one argument in case that says that the suicide genes are somehow inevitable. No expectation of what that argument would be. No time for the phrase of that argument either, which means that maybe we somehow down the line have some sort of development of these things, but it's not mandated. Second argument is that there's no way it's solved because it's not mandated by the government without the mandate. The things will stay, the cancer treatment place will still use the same system they have in place because it's easier to do that way. They already have the infrastructure set up. That is the same reason why they still use chemotherapy for things like breast, colon, and lung cancer treatment. You concede the argument that it's been proven to be ineffective for the last 10 years, but they continue to use it because it's easier. It's just already set up in the infrastructure. Only the plan allows for that to be solved because we mandate that they move away from it, which means we solve that back. You only try to frame us out of debate with the argument that says that you should prioritize optimal body count. First, still water to that argument. Second argument is that you should prefer probability of impact arguments. You're conceding that the affirmative solves 577,000 deaths this year, and that's guaranteed. You can definitely solve that now. Risk of the disad is not very probable. We have tons of arguments on the disad they're conceding, and additionally, you're conceding you have the ethical obligations to these individuals because we have the technology right now, which means that we have it and we can treat them and cure them right now. You only try to go for this ridiculous argument about gene linkage just because it works for Monsanto terminated genes. It's the same. Wrong, guys. You concede the solvency argument number 2 that says suicide genes are an automated way of controlling the scope of therapy of cancer tumors. Once the cancer cells that carry the trans genes die, they self-destruct, which means normal cells are unharmed. Conceded argument 99.9% accuracy, which means voting for the affirmative solves instantly for 577,000 people now, and additionally, infinitely in the future, more people die, which means we definitely outweigh their impact arguments more probable. Go to the counterclaim now. I'm not going to the permutation, obviously, but they try to explicate why the permutation excludes all trauma cancer treatment because of the explication. Wrong, guys. We always said that the plan includes the counterplan, which is just to ban chemotherapy. Does not ban other types of treatments. All it does is mandate that in the type of treatment that this like chemotherapy that's got rid of it, which is chemotherapy. The plan bans chemotherapy. That is what we do, which means the counterplan was the plan, not an explication of why we get rid of it.
Like, at the very least, that's a new articulation as to, like, what the plan is in the PMR, which is terrible. But, like, the specific point where is that, like, their original argument in the MG was that the plan says we're banning all. Like,
no, the explication was the purview the plan because the plan includes the counterplan because we banned chemotherapy. Never said all. I'm sure it's completely irrelevant.
Besides, it doesn't matter because you're conceding tons of arguments on BizCon. Probably shouldn't spread yourself too thin. Go there now. You're conceding tons of arguments that are more specific as to why the economy is bad and the status quo. I want you to set across your argument that it's only the rich that are putting money in the stock market. You say that this is bad, that those be investors, which is why it's key to business owners. First, it's only the 1%, which means the large majority of the economy is still in a bad shape. That's why the unemployment is at 7.7% and has been rising. And you can see that it has to be largely below that in order for that to be an indicator of why the economy is good. Additionally, you're conceding our manufacturing answer. You just say that consumer confidence is at an all-time high. Wrong, guys. You do not have a warrant in this debate about what indicator there is for consumer confidence. We have explicated that manufacturing is the best indication of that, and that is down 1.3% of status quo, which means we were more specific for us on this claim. Also, coupled with our late turn arguments is probably devastating because you can see all of them. First off, all you say is it's all about perception. If that's true, then you're conceding arguments why the perception is key on this question because the perception will plan takes generate momentum in favor. First, that it stops frivolous lawsuits, which means that are killing healthcare in the status quo. That's the personally target return argument, which means that there's more investment because it's not going to just be collapse of the industry. Additionally, also people are getting sick of the status quo, which means they can't go to work. Investor confidence goes up. If they are here because they can contribute back into the economy. Also, the business confidence is that increases business confidence because we actually solve the current treatment kills more people, which means the business would see it as solved, which means that we resolve the question of the economy absolutely, which means that we solve your impact of that disad. Now go to politics. I'm going to extend across the first couple arguments. First, that Barbara Boxer and Feinstein and Rick Santorum are all down for the plan, and Sanders and Sanders. These are all indications why the plan is uber bipartisan. Rick Santorum is probably the most conservative dude you can think of. You just say your only answer is, well, he's not conservative enough. Are you kidding me? He is the most conservative person I've ever heard of. And Barbara Boxer is probably on the opposite side as democratic as you can get. Our argument is that to prove that it's super bipartisan in the status quo. means that people like it. Additionally, I'm going to send across the MG number 8 conceded argument that uniqueness overwhelms link because they want to get paid. They see Republicans will ultimately vote for a stopgap measure no matter what, because if they don't, their checks don't go and they lose their job, which means that terminally that passes no matter what happens. Additionally, you try to go for this argument that Republicans don't support the regulation of biotechnology. That is not specific enough to this claim. They want biotechnology that works. We are mandating that we use biotechnology. The plan text ultimately just makes it so that we use biotechnology that Republicans are super down with, which means that they are on board with the plan. No other arguments are super generic. Additionally, extend across the argument that we talk about the lawsuit. That's a conceded argument. You just say it's not true because we don't have health care. That's a bad argument. You can see that that means that if we stop for the lawsuit, that's also contributes to biz Congress probably also help with this question. Additionally, your impact arguments are super not probably. We will win the argument that the plan is liked by Republicans and Democrats. We definitely covered this, man.
Always need to move around to get like that. Should have